Hi folks, Kieran here again. Hope you're all good. This is a response video to Lengthyounarther's video, which was called Wealth Inequality. Hang on, it's actually called Wealth Inequality and Luck. Okay, so I will direct my responses to Lengthyounarther himself, but this video is obviously for everybody. Anyone who wants to say something in response is more than welcome. Okay, so enjoy your videos, Lengthyounarther. Keep up the good work, by the way. So I was thinking of doing this response video last week. Then this week my head has been full of this coronavirus pandemic thing. So I never quite did the video last week, and my mind hasn't been on it. But I just did a video on the coronavirus, so I thought I'm on a roll now. I thought did make a few notes last week on this Lengthyounarther video, so I think maybe I can dredge up from my brain from last week what I was thinking of saying. Trouble is, it's all like complicated politics, political philosophy kind of thinking, so it's kind of difficult to express and stuff. But I guess this is going to be a one take thing, and I'll just do the best I can. So as I say, I made some notes, but all my notes are sort of a summary of what you said, Lengthyounarther. So I'm really prepared what I'm going to say very well. So cracking on. Okay, first of all, you were asking. So I'm reading my notes now. You're asking if okay. So your video, to summarize, was about how. Well, asking a question: are rich people rich because they were lucky or because they were skillful or something? And then you first ask about, if you say you say, okay, some left-wing people are saying that lucky people should be the fact that rich people get their wealth through luck in part, or completely, maybe in some people's view, suggests that their some of this money should be taken off them and shared around. You ask, why would people take risks? Why would they start a business, or why would they enter a lottery if the rich people, if your gains were going to be taken off you anyway? I think my answer to that would be, okay, so I'm an egalitarian, I'm a massive left-winger, so this is the point of view I'm coming from. If you assume equality is a good thing in itself, all else equal, which I think most of us do. I mean, I think even you, Lengthyounarther, would probably think that equality, if it really was all else equal, you could get the same amount of wealth, the same society, except it's more evenly distributed, and you don't have to do anything bad to get it evenly distributed, or you don't have to do anything worse to people's freedom. You'd rather things wind up being more equal, I would imagine. I think there are some good things about equality. I mean, personally, I'm a radical egalitarian, so I see conflict, I see competition and like hierarchies and a competitive kind of mindset. I see that all that's really, really bad. I mean, I know we generally hear about competition's a good thing, but for me, that's what the better off people say, and that's what you hear a lot on TV, and that's been the dominant view. But I think that competition is akin to conflict, and it really skews humanity's direction. The fact that everybody's competing with everyone else to get higher up in the pile of let's say wealth, but also like overall, I suppose it's satisfaction is what we're seeing. Preference, satisfaction. So we're all trying to compete with each other. I think it does lead to bad decisions to do with creating a lot of pollution and having a lot of money spent on weapons. And in the end, I think artificial intelligence, I've done another video recently about this, but I think we're going to create artificial intelligence. It's likely to be a kind of one with created from a competitive mindset, and I think there's a real danger it will wipe us out. Also, equality is pretty good for distribution. If you've got two families, and 2 cars, the best way to give them freedom and happiness is to give them 1 car each. The pollution problem notwithstanding. So that's my little argument for equality. So going back to this point about why would we want to take the money that lucky people have acquired and give it away to everyone else? The reason I would say is because if you could successfully identify the wealth that is brought about by luck, then take that money off those people and give it to the people who are unlucky in their endeavors, then you would create more equality, but you wouldn't harm incentives, I think, because you'd be just taking away the amount that came about through luck. You'd just be evening it up. Ideally, you'd be transferring the money from someone who played the lottery and won to someone who played the lottery and lost, or someone who started a business and won, or was lucky, and give it to someone who started a business and was unlucky. And I don't see why that would harm incentives to work. It would just actually make your winnings, your benefit from doing socially useful things, if we consider starting a business to be that. We just make the profit from that more sure, more less randomized. The problem is it's a practical one. I think no one can figure out what part of someone's wealth has come from luck. I suppose in a lottery you could, but in other things where it's luck is mixed up with skill, and ruthlessness, then it's very hard to work out. So, in theory, actually, in a capitalist society, we wouldn't. People could somehow buy insurance against this kind of luck at work, but I don't think any insurers know like how much of a successful business is down to luck and how much is down to skill. I don't think anyone can predict all this. So there's a practical problem, but I think from a sort of theoretical point of view, yeah, it's something you might want to do. How much is worth thinking about from like a politician's point of view, I don't really know, because I don't think there's much of a practical plan there. I suppose some of it is just trying to erode a kind of a kind of dessert, kind of not food dessert, people deserving stuff, that kind of ethos, mentality that sort of right-wing people might have, or centrist people might have. They might say one of the reasons we should be unequal is because it's actually better, even for its own sake, it's better to have the people who deserve things getting them, even if it does, aside from how it might inspire people to work hard. Some people, particularly when it comes to people going to jail, some people think that it's not just to deter sort of future behavior. It is it's actually right that somebody does something wrong, doesn't have a happy time with things. So it might be, these left-wing people might be bringing up this luck thing, maybe to say, hey, but okay, so some of you think this business, these billionaires should get this money, and that's a good thing in itself. But actually, it's not. You can't really bring. It's not all deserved. if you believe in people getting what they deserve being a thing. Okay, so that's the first point. Okay, so you were saying you asked why people. Okay, so people on the left are saying let's curb like wealth so we don't have billionaires. So you're asking why not take if you say that why do you actually taking it further and saying why don't you stop people being millionaires or being even less than that? And also you say why don't we stop make everybody equally ugly or make gouge out people's eyes so that we're all equally blind and so on. This point, I don't really understand this point. I don't see why an egalitarian can't have a nuanced position on this. There's no egalitarian who's just an egalitarian who thinks equality is the only thing we want to achieve morally. I mean, I can't imagine anybody thinking that. They would have to be committed to gouging out people's eyes if that was the case. But as far as I know, anybody who's an egalitarian, including myself, thinks equality is a good thing, but also thinks the total amount of wealth and the total amount of happiness are also important things. I mean, for myself, I'm a utilitarian, and I think that we should maximize. It's a bit complicated what I think. I think we should maximize preference satisfaction for people alive now, and pleasure minus pain for those alive who will be alive in the future. But anyway, basically I'm talking about total well-being, and I wouldn't attach a value for equality of anything in it as an end in itself. I think as I said earlier, equality is a massive means to an end. I think it's the means to making humanity much safer and happier in the long term. And that's what. But I think it's instrumentally valuable, as they say. It's a means to another end. So I don't see why someone can't say, well, billionaires takes inequality too far. It gives us too much of those bad effects of like everyone being competitive and some people just being very poor unnecessarily. But saying we need some incentives. So being a millionaire is probably enough of an incentive, as I think even you mentioned in the video, from a poor person's point of view. What's the big difference between a billionaire and a millionaire? It all sounds pretty great from our point of view. So in terms of dreams and that kind of thing, if we did cap it at I don't know, 100 million you're allowed to have each, then maybe the incentives wouldn't be affected much. But then the inequality would be much better. Okay, so but you're taking it further and saying that trying to level things out wealth wise implies you want to gouge people's eyes out and stuff. I don't think it really follows. Also, you're being a bit negative about gouging people's eyes out. I mean, there may be ways to make the ugly more beautiful or something. It doesn't imply the worst sort of thing. And also, as I said, if most people are not just egalitarians, so they're going to see gouging people's eyes out as a bad thing, because it's obviously going to harm people's well-being overall. So, which is for me the sole aim. And even if someone says that equality is of intrinsic value, it would only be alongside other values which would be greatly harmed by gouging eyes and so on. Also, you're a little bit pessimistic. I think that then in the video you're saying that the only way to achieve this kind of radical equality is through violence, through class revolutionary violence and liquidation, you call it, which sounds pretty scary. There have been egalitarian states brought about through violence, like famous ones like Russia and stuff. But I don't see why it should have to be the case that violence brings about radical equality. Um, yeah, basically, I don't know if I've mentioned this in this video so far. I'm losing track. But I have my own sort of egalitarian sort of system called equal satisfaction. I didn't quite say this earlier, actually. So everybody's the state fixes it so everybody's like overall preference satisfaction is equalized. But I don't see why violence has to be involved. We only have to vote for it. I mean, a party could come around which has that as a policy, or we could have direct democracy. We could have bringing it about. We could have a referendum that brings this thing in. That would be the ideal from my point of view. It's the same. It's only the same as yours kind of thing. You want this radical capitalist system that we haven't really seen in its pure form in the West. But just because it hasn't come about through the ballot box, it doesn't mean it can't sometime in an election. So maybe there is a statistical link between egalitarian states and violence. I don't know. That would be a good point if there is, but I don't see why it would have to be. I believe that I checked out this about 10 years ago. I believe it's the case that Denmark, at least 10 years ago, or some other, I think it was Denmark, maybe the rest of Scandinavia, was the most equal country in the world in terms of Gini coefficient of wealth, income, I think. And I believe that actually was as egalitarian in those terms as the USSR was in the Soviet days. So at least one of perhaps the most egalitarian country ever, which might be Denmark 10 years ago, I don't know, was peaceful and democratic and non-violent. So I don't see why we couldn't have a more radical thing without violence. You say that, okay, one argument for equality of wealth is that the rich can influence the state, but you say that the state must always be hierarchical anyway, and there's always going to be people like Noam Chomsky. Even if we have equal wealth, there's always going to be some people like Noam Chomsky that a lot of people listen to, or whatever, influential people. Yeah, well, I've got a radical solution to that as well. Well, my equal satisfaction thing, I think, kind of would solve people like Noam Chomsky. You wouldn't be allowed to be influential because that would be very satisfying. I'm actually thinking of amending my system to have equality of political power as well as an additional rule. I think we really need to pin. Maybe I need to pin that one down as a separate point. So, yeah, why does a state have to be hierarchical? I don't think it does. I mean, we can have I believe in a non-hierarchical state. A state is just, for me, maybe this is a semantic kind of argument, but the state is just a compulsory organization for someone living in a certain geographical area. So I don't see why each person living in that geographical area who has to be a member of the state can't have an equal say. And if you think that's really bad for freedom of speech or something, then you can allow a bit of variance in a slight hierarchy or whatever. But I think having the rich around, being able to donate money to the state, is skewing things in the favor of the state and giving us more pollution than the people want, and more of it's like a vicious circle. It leads to even more consolidation of some people being wealthy because they have political power. They decide on the rules of the game, and they're also players in the game. I think it's all a bit screwed up. We can still have a state, but we can ban political donations. I think there are some countries, maybe in Scandinavia as well, that do ban political donations, or they just have state-funded parties. I think that would be the best of elections where the number of dollars or pounds or whatever you can spend in your campaign is just proportional to the number of votes you got last time or something, some sort of marketing sort of votes like that, rather than the rich effectively having more say in the way the place is run than the poor. You suggest getting rid of the state. That's a whole different radical thing. I think that having capitalism but without the state would be a disaster, in my opinion. I think that the rich would create monopolies and have tolls to pass their land. And anybody who didn't have land would be effectively a slave of someone if they lived on the land of someone else. To name but a few problems. Yeah, if you want to get rid of the state, I think it might be worth it a try somewhere. I think it's might be a valid experiment. I might be proved wrong on these kind of things. I think it's worth trying different systems. Maybe the system you suggest is, a lot of people are talking about it, is perhaps worth a try to do this libertarian thing. But I am a bit skeptical. Okay, so that was abolishing the state. What else were you saying? Okay, so you made some other points towards the end of your video, saying if the wealth think it's all down to luck, then we probably wouldn't need to redistribute anyway, because the winner would probably lose next time. Yeah, you might be onto something there. Maybe it is a bit of left-wing bullshit to say that it's all luck, and yet we think it's really unfair luck because one person seems to be getting all the luck all the time or something. Yeah, maybe there is a point. I wouldn't stand by every bit of rhetoric a left-wing person sort of said. Actually, sometimes I think it is tempting to fall into bullshit sometimes, in even myself, when it comes to this kind of thing. Like, if some rich person's like kind of gloating a bit to me about how rich they are, or something like that, or how important they are, I feel like I should say something like, "Oh, but I'm just as important as you," sort of thing. So I feel like saying some bullshit to put them down a peg or something. And yet, the whole point of being a left winger is that I think that we are worse off. I mean, perhaps what I should have said is that if a rich person's kind of gloating, I want to say something like, "Oh, but my life's just as good, somehow I'm just as happy. It doesn't really matter." But then the fact that I'm left wing, I want these things to be redistributed, doesn't. It actually implies the opposite. I really do think my life sucks more than these people. So, but I wouldn't want to sort of admit it to their faces, kind of thing. I should try and always try to be more honest and stuff. But maybe some of these people you're criticizing have fallen a bit into the trap of some sort of bullshit like that. Anyway, it was fun to respond to your video, Lengthyounarther. As I said at the start, keep up the good work, keep up the fun videos. And I'll catch you all soon. All the best.